An FBI search party at a home associated with Memphis rapper Pooh Shiesty.
The next time we see Pooh Shiesty will be 50 years old.
Shiesty had one on him. Big 30 had one on him. Only person who really gonna escape from this is the Pops.
So a few days ago, there was news that broke that a family home that was linked to Pooh Shiesty and his father was raided by the feds, right? And at that time, we didn't know why. I reached out to Memphis FBI and police and couldn't get an answer on what was happening.
Pooh Shiesty and Big 30, two names that just shook the entire hip-hop world to its core. The man who handed Pooh Shiesty his career, signed his name, put him on stages, and publicly welcomed him home from prison.
Yeah, Shiesty, he home. He's still on the label.
100%.
Oh yeah,
Shiesty, I got big plans for Shiesty, man.
Yeah.
That's what I've been waiting on, Shiesty.
Yeah.
So we finna go up through that now, and Pooh finna come out too, and I got big plans for him too. I got to just execute these plans.
Everything right on time,
bro. It's very exciting times now.
Yeah.
Was allegedly the same man who had a loaded AK-style pistol pointed directly at his face inside a soundproof recording booth in Dallas, Texas.
We're inside the recording studio. Williams Jr. and 8 co-conspirators, several of whom traveled from Memphis, Tennessee, executed a coordinated armed takeover.
And somehow, that is only the beginning of this story. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to where it all started. Pooh Shiesty, born Lontrell Williams Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee, was not a slow burn. He was a wildfire. By 2019, he was putting out independent singles that were turning heads all across the South, and his energy was impossible to ignore. His sound was raw. His delivery was magnetic, and it didn't take long before the biggest names in the game started paying attention. One of those names was Gucci Mane, a living legend of trap music, one of the architects who built the entire genre alongside T.I. and Jeezy back in the mid-2000s. Gucci had an eye for talent that was almost unmatched in the industry. He had helped build Young Thug's career from the ground up. He had turned 831.7 Records into one of the most culturally relevant labels in rap. And in April 2020, he made Pooh Shiesty his next big bet, signing him in a joint venture deal between A107 Records and Atlantic Records. The gamble paid off almost immediately. Shiesty's debut single on the label, Back in Blood, rocketed into the top 20 of the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 13. His debut mixtape, Shiesty Season, dropped in February 2021 and debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 with 62,000 album equivalent units in its first week. He was named an XXL freshman. He was Billboard's Hip Hop Rookie of the Month. He was everything the label needed him to be. And then, just as the momentum was hitting its peak, everything stopped. Shortly after Shiesty Season dropped, the legal problems started stacking up fast. He was arrested in connection with a shooting in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, facing charges of armed robbery, aggravated assault, and battery. Then, before that case was even resolved, he was arrested again, this time tied to a strip club shooting in Miami.
Who shot this shot? Who shot the letter? Oh shit! Who shot the letter off there? Jack his bitch ass in this bitch. Oh, look at everybody ready! Look at everybody talking, everybody ready!
The momentum he had worked so hard to build was gone overnight. By April 2022, he pleaded guilty to federal conspiracy charges and was handed a 5-year sentence. Just like that, one of the most promising careers in rap was on pause. But the career being paused didn't mean the business stopped. While Shiesty sat in federal prison for 3 years, T1015 Records kept operating. And here is where the tension reportedly began to boil. According to commentator Charleston White, speaking during an Adin Ross livestream, Gucci Mane made $24 million off 1315 Records during the years Shiesty was locked up, and allegedly never sent his signed artist a single dollar.
Gucci made $24 million while he was in prison. Didn't give him one brown penny while he was in prison. When he came home, he didn't get nothing. So they called the business meeting for him to fly to Dallas.
Why'd they do that to Gucci? Why'd they do it?
Well, they were mad because they feel like he made all that money and didn't give them none. And he showed up and said he couldn't pay them because they were broke. So
now those are unverified claims from a commentator, not the DOJ. But what was confirmed and reported in 2024 is this. Gucci Mane quietly released nearly every artist on his 10-15-1-5 roster. Every single one of them except for Pooh Shiesty and Fujiano. Everyone else got their freedom. Shiesty remained locked in. To make matters even more complicated, Word had started circulating that Shiesty had attracted serious interest from Yo Gotti and his CMG label, one of the most powerful independent rap operations in the country. The problem? Gotti and Gucci Mane have had a famously strained relationship for years. So even the door Shiesty might have wanted to walk through was tangled up in politics he had no control over. He was out of prison in October 2025, but in many ways, he still wasn't free. And that combination of feeling financially betrayed, contractually trapped, and blocked from a bigger opportunity was apparently enough to push things past a breaking point. When Pooh Shiesty was released from prison in October 2025, Gucci Mane's public reaction was warm. He took to social media and posted, "Welcome home, Pooh Shiesty. The Mane slime is back." It looked, at least on the surface, like a reunion between a label boss and his star artist. It looked like a fresh start. What was allegedly happening behind the scenes told an entirely different story. According to federal investigators, within weeks of his release, Shiesty had already begun putting together a plan. Not a music plan, a coordinated operation involving 9 people, cross-state travel, pre-printed legal documents, and a carefully arranged trap disguised as a business meeting. The level of preparation involved was not impulsive. This was deliberate, methodical, and deeply premeditated. Pooh Shiesty's own father, Montrell Williams Sr., allegedly visited a Staples store in Frisco, Texas, hours before the meeting to print the contract release documents that would later be used at gunpoint. The paper trail started before anyone even walked into that studio. Cell phone records, surveillance footage, and license plate reader data confirmed that several of the suspects had traveled together in a convoy from Memphis to Dallas in the days leading up to January 10th.
The complaint alleges that on January 10th of this year, 3 music industry professionals traveled to Dallas for a scheduled business meeting. Montrell Williams Jr. arranged this meeting purportedly to discuss the terms of his recording contract with one of the victims. As alleged, once these 3 men were inside the recording studio, Williams Jr. and 8 co-conspirators, several of whom traveled from Memphis, Tennessee, executed a coordinated armed takeover. As alleged, Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol and forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint.
Rental car records show Williams Sr. personally rented one of the vehicles used by the group. They stayed overnight in a Dallas hotel, and the morning of the incident they moved together toward the studio on Dallas Parkway. Meanwhile, Gucci Mane and 2 other music industry professionals were boarding a flight to Dallas, believing they were heading into a routine contract discussion. He even brought security, including, according to DJ Academics, an off-duty police officer who traveled with him as personal protection. None of them had any idea what was actually waiting inside. At 3:43 p.m. on January 10th, the suspects entered the studio. Investigators say the separation of victims happened almost immediately. Pooh Shiesty pulled Gucci Mane away from the others and guided him into a private recording room, while the remaining suspects stayed behind with the other 2 music industry professionals in the control room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Big 30 and Pooh Shiesty and the father are there with Gucci. It's like 3v1. And then in the other room, Gucci's other 2 homies, or not 2 homies, 1 homie and the camera dude is there with like 6 people for Shiesty.
Wow.
DJ Academics, speaking on Auden Ross's stream, pointed out something critical about that specific choice of location. A recording booth is completely soundproof. Whatever happened inside that room, no one standing just a few feet away in the hallway or control area would hear a single thing. They would have no idea whether a business discussion or something far more violent was taking place.
Getting a little bit rambunctious because they actually think it's going to be business going on. Pooh Shiesty brings Gucci to the booth, right? The music booth, and in the control room, right? So, you know, somebody records in a booth and then you have the control.
Yeah, and it's soundproof. You can't hear unless you're being spoken into the mic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
inside the recording room, it was Gucci Mane, Pooh Shiesty, Shiesty's father, and Big 30. Shiesty produced the contract release paperwork and told Gucci Mane to sign it. Mane refused. That is when, according to the FBI affidavit, Shiesty reached into his bag and produced a black AK-style pistol, pointing it directly at the head of 1015 Records. Mane signed the documents. Big 30 filmed the entire confrontation on the cell phone.
Pooh Shiesty, Shiesty's father, fellow rapper Big 30, and 6 others have been accused of robbing and kidnapping Gucci Mane at gunpoint and forcing him to release Shiesty from his record deal.
After the signing, Shiesty took Mane's wedding ring, his watch, his earrings, and his cash. The man's personal belongings stripped off him in a soundproof room while his staff stood just meters away, completely unaware. In the control room, the remaining suspects had drawn their own firearms. One victim was pushed onto a couch and robbed of his wallet and jewelry. Another was grabbed from behind, choked to the point of near unconsciousness, and relieved of a Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag, and additional valuables. Big 30, positioned at the studio door, used his body as a physical barricade. No one was leaving until the group decided it was over. Victims later told prosecutors they believed at certain moments during the ordeal that they were going to be killed. As for Gucci's off-duty cop, academics described what happened when the officer tried to look in. He saw multiple weapons drawn inside, assessed the situation, and made the decision not to enter. It was not part of his contracted role. Everything that happened behind that studio door would have to be reconstructed entirely from the accounts of the victims themselves. They walked out of that studio, split into their vehicles: a Dodge Charger Hellcat, a Dodge Ram truck, and a rented Buick Enclave, and disappeared into the Dallas afternoon. And within hours, some of them were on social media. Multiple defendants posted photos and videos displaying large amounts of cash and jewelry that investigators believe were stolen during the robbery. They had just carried out what the DOJ would later call a coordinated armed takeover, and they were putting evidence of it on their own public profiles before the sun went down. But the social media posts were only the most visible piece of a case that was already airtight from multiple angles. Pooh Shiesty had been released from prison on home confinement, which meant he was wearing a federal ankle monitor at all times. Electronic monitoring data from that device placed him at the studio in Dallas, in direct violation of every condition of his home detention.
The document notes that Pooh Shiesty had just been put on house arrest on October 31st, 2025 for a firearms charge, and a part of his conditions for this house arrest. It also notes that he was required to wear an electronic monitoring device, and that same monitoring device confirmed that he was at or near the location of this incident around the time of
his parole officer had reportedly already warned him to turn around and go home while he was still en route. He kept going. The ankle monitor recorded where he went anyway. Investigators also recovered fingerprint evidence from items inside the studio, including red plastic cups, tying multiple suspects to the scene directly. Rental car records, cell phone triangulation, surveillance footage from neighboring buildings, and license plate reader data from the days prior all locked the group into a timeline that was nearly impossible to dispute. On top of that, investigators later recovered actual firearms from vehicles and residences connected to the defendants. 9 people. A cross-state convoy, printed documents prepared the morning of the crime, an ankle monitor broadcasting their location in real time, social media posts uploaded hours later. The evidence wasn't thin. It was a paper trail that started before the crime and didn't stop until the arrests. When the FBI moved, it moved everywhere at once. On Wednesday, April 2nd, 2026, federal agents executed coordinated arrests across 3 cities simultaneously: Memphis, Nashville, and Dallas. 8 of the 9 suspects were taken into custody on the same day.
This week, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas. 8 of the 9 were arrested yesterday in Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville. These individuals who are charged and arrested include Lontrell Williams Jr., also known as Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., Rodney Wright Jr., also known as Big 30, Kadarius Waters, Demarion Gibson, DeMarcus Glover, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel, and Terrence Rogers
In Memphis, agents executed a search warrant at a home in the Cordova suburb, a property linked directly to Pooh Shiesty. His father, Lontrell Williams Sr., was arrested there. Shiesty himself was taken into custody in Dallas. His own father, arrested on the same day in the same investigation over the same alleged crime they had reportedly planned together in the weeks prior. The full list of defendants charged federally reads as follows: Lontrell Williams Jr., known as Pooh Shiesty; Lontrell Williams Sr., Rodney Wright Jr., known as Big 30; Kadarius Waters, Demarion Gibson, DeMarcus Glover, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel, and Terrence Rogers, the only one who was not picked up on that first wave. Rogers remained at large briefly before FBI Atlanta tracked him down and arrested him separately. All 9 now face federal kidnapping and conspiracy to commit kidnapping charges. The U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas, Ryan Raybould, held a press conference and named Pooh Shiesty specifically as the ringleader of the entire operation. Pooh Shiesty's father eventually secured a $250,000 bond, but the judge attached the strictest possible non-custodial conditions: house arrest. Shiesty himself remained in federal custody in Dallas with no bond secured. DJ Academics, breaking it all down on Adding Ross's live stream, said what a lot of people were thinking, that rapping always seemed like a side occupation for Shiesty, and that the street mentality was apparently where his real identity lived. That assessment, for better or worse, is starting to look accurate in the worst possible way. If convicted on the federal charges, every single defendant faces a maximum sentence of up to life in federal prison. Here is perhaps the most brutal twist in this entire story. All of this, the planning, the travel, the 9 people, the weapons, the ankle monitor violation, the kidnapping charges, the potential life sentences, was done, allegedly, to force Gucci Mane to sign a document releasing Pooh Shiesty from his recording contract. And that document is almost certainly worthless. Under basic contract law, any agreement signed under duress, meaning under the threat of force or violence, is generally rendered legally invalid. A signature obtained at gunpoint is not a binding contract. It is evidence of a crime. The paperwork Gucci Mane signed in that recording booth will likely never hold up in any court of law, which means Pooh Shiesty may still technically be signed to 114 Went 7 Records, even as he sits in federal custody facing the possibility of never leaving prison. The thing he risked everything to escape may still be the thing that legally defines him, and now it is wrapped around a criminal case that could cost him the rest of his life. Neither Pooh Shiesty, Big 30, nor Gucci Mane have made any public statement addressing the charges as of the time of this video. The silence from all 3 is deafening given everything that is alleged to have happened. DJ Academics summed up the entire situation with a line that stuck: "If you have to bring 8 people to a business meeting, it was never a business meeting. Go for coffee. Get on Zoo." Pooh Shiesty went from XXL freshman to federal kidnapping suspect in less than 6 years, all tied to the same record deal, the same label, the same man who made him. Whether you see this as a story about betrayal, about broken music industry contracts, or simply about a series of catastrophic decisions, one question hangs over all of it. At what point does the culture of the streets make it impossible to survive the business of the boardroom? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video to support the channel. Subscribe to Hollyhite TV for the latest updates, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Until next time, peace out.